and influenced another third. The Marines found themselves in an exasperating situation, surrounded by VC-controlled territory, but confronted only by a small number of enemy soldiers. They estimated that 1/3 of I Corps was VC, and another third was influenced by it. I mean, that's a good warning right at the beginning of the war that there's some sort of methodology that we're going to have to use here to stop anyone from wanting communism. But no, we wouldn't go through with that. Or we could just pull out and say, you know what, if that many of your own citizens are willing to cave in, then there's not a lot we can do. But we didn't want to let the communists have the country. I think what we should have done is completely discredit communism. But let's continue and see what we did do. Drawing upon this knowledge that they're surrounded by VC, but there's only really a relatively small number of actual troops to fight with, and they don't really know where they're at and what they're doing. Drawing upon this knowledge, the Marines quickly learned that it made little sense to sweep through a village, clearing it of VC, and then moving out. That's what they used to do. If they get shot at, get the people, arrest them, kill them, something, then you move on and leave the village behind. The NLF apparatus, nearly invisible because it was civilian, the North Korean, I don't know what it stands for though, would quickly re-establish control of the villages. Now some of the things that we did, we relocated villages. There was a hamlet that they moved about 5 miles to a village near the village of Lemay, L-E-M-Y. They convinced the people to move closer over there because the Marines had a good strong presence and they wanted the population to be closer where they could patrol them easier and stuff. I don't know if the people were willing to move or not, but these are some of the types of things we were doing to try to sort out who the enemy was and wasn't. And it's just it seems to me that it didn't work. Okay, so it's going to take more people to do it. For one reason, we weren't doing it right, but even if we were doing it right, we're going to need more people than that. So the big buildup begins. We're on page 18 now. Between March 1965 and early 68, the number of U.S. military personnel in South Vietnam rose from 29,000 to over 500,000. The logistical effort required for this massive troop buildup in an underdeveloped country halfway around the world was enormous. By 1968, monthly shipments of military equipment, ammunition, and supplies to South Vietnam had surpassed World War II figures. So we were, now that was 25 years previous to World War II was at that point. But that's quite a large effort that was going on in Vietnam then, wasn't it? Yet at no time during the war was a major tactical operation impeded by a logistical failure. Now I think that's interesting and worth noting. How can you say we lost when we never had any problems with logistics? Never had any problems with logistics and supplies and so forth. No major tactical operation was impeded. That's something like, you know, D-Day had to be stopped because we were short by 10 million barrels of oil, whatever, you know, or Patton's drive towards Berlin had to be slowed down because we couldn't keep up with petroleum needs or whatever. No, none of that in Vietnam. We didn't have those problems. Supplying American troops in South Vietnam was a significant logistical achievement, and as General William Westmoreland pointed out, surely one of the more remarkable accomplishments of American forces in Vietnam. You know, let's provide some consolation. Poor consolation to say, well, you lost the war, but you did a good job getting the men, you know, their ham and ice cream. In the 3 years following the decision to escalate, Defense Department expenditures in Southeast Asia, not counting economic aid, rose from 103 million to 28.8 billion, of which over 21.5 billion was directly attributable to the war. Wow, that's a lot of money, a huge difference in the economy before and after we were spending over there. and it didn't help them. You know, there's the idea that sending troops someplace and then the money from the troops disseminating into the culture. Yeah, there's some wealth there, but it doesn't have any long-term effects. It's short-term, because as soon as the troops leave, then all of that effect dissipates unless the culture itself is able to keep up the trade and respect for rights and so on that were present when the military was there. It's just an economics argument that we can pass for now. So we go down a little bit. From military commodities like weapons and ammunition to luxury items like air conditioners, steaks, beer, and radios, each unit tended to requisition supplies independently. Wow, now that's crazy. Now, if you've watched MASH, you know that they're always calling up seeing if they can get cases of this and cases of that. Supply catalogs were used, as Major General Joseph Heiser, former commander of Logistical Command, noted. Quote, here's what he says, as if they were the Sears and Roebuck catalog. So they had military had supply catalogs, and you'd go through them and choose stuff and try to get it. Wishing to give their troops the highest possible level of comfort, commanders often ordered luxuries and other amenities far in excess of standard logistical guidelines. And not only that, they ordered more than they needed, more than they were supposed to order for their number of troops. Not only that, they ordered it not for their troops, but to trade for other stuff. It's like a shortage economy. It's like in Soviet Russia, you go and if there are any socks or gloves or pants or anything at the store, you buy everything they have because you can trade it later to friends or whatever, give it as presents even. But just get something, and that's how it was in the army. Just get hold of something, and you can even barter with other bases for stuff. This attitude found its strongest advocate in General Westmoreland. Westmoreland was keenly aware of the problems of morale in Vietnam, especially those related to the controversy over the war. For this reason, and to discourage pressure in the U.S. to bring our boys home, he limited each soldier's tour of duty in South Vietnam to 365 days. Now, it says right there that the reason that they limited the tour, and the reason they had all these luxuries and stuff, was because they wanted support for the war. Now, that seems like a really, that is a really cheap, flimsy attitude to take. That will get the American people to support us because the soldiers won't stay there for long, and they'll have ice cream and steaks while they're there. Wait a minute. Are you sure we want to be in this war? Well, it doesn't matter. You're only staying there for a year, and you'll have ice cream. Oh, now that seems to me like they underestimate the intelligence and moral stature of the American people. We need a little bit more to make the war doable and to be proud of it. We need a little bit more than just that the soldiers don't stay there long. That's ridiculous. In fact, the Americans would probably be more supportive if you drafted a 3 million man army, flooded the entire country, shoved a constitution down its throat, and maybe even invaded China, and didn't let anybody out of the army until the war was done, like in World War II. Very different situation. In Vietnam, you do your number of days. It was a year and 1 month for the Marines, 365 days for others. What a strange way to try to get the population on the side of a war. Oh, the troops won't stay there long. Great. He also attempted to provide the soldiers with all the comforts during their tour. Over 90% of the meals, for example, were served hot. Not bad. I mean, we've all seen movies like Apocalypse Now and stuff. I don't think I've seen Apocalypse Now, but we've all seen these movies about Vietnam where they're out in the bush for days and stuff. That happened too, but 90% of meals were served hot. 3 dairies and 40 ice cream plants were dispersed around the country. 3 dairies and 40 ice cream plants. This was not unheard of for soldiers. It was not unheard of for soldiers wary from the torrid heat while on patrol in the bush to be treated to ice cream flown in by helicopter.